Dear student, today I am going to start a new topic, bearing in machine design, a brief overview. So in introduction, I can say bearing allow relative motion between two parts reducing friction, and it is essential in machinery for smooth operation and efficiency. So, what are the functions of bearings? It reduces friction, it supports radial and axial loads, it ensures alignment, and it enhances machine life. So, what are the classifications of bearings? Based on load, it is classified as radial and thrust bearing. Based on contact, it is classified as rolling and sliding bearings. Based on lubrication, it is classified as hydrodynamic and hydrostatic bearings. So, first of all, we have to know what do you mean by radial bearing and thrust bearing. So radial bearing refers to bearing that supports primarily radial loads. Typical examples of radial bearings are deep groove ball bearing, cylindrical roller bearing, and needle bearing. And what do you mean by thrust bearing? Thrust bearing contains a number of sector shaped pads arranged in a circle around the shaft and which are free to pivot. This creates waist shaped regions of oil inside the bearing between the pads and a rotating disc which support the applied thrust and eliminate metal on metal contact. So here the figures of radial and thrust bearing. So you can see for radial bearing there are two types of bearing, ball bearing and roller bearing. And in ball bearing there are parts are bearing rings, bearing brings, outer ring, rolling element, etc. and cage. And the direction in which load is applied also shown here. And in roller bearing also the parts bearing ring, inner ring, bearing ring, outer ring, cage, rolling element or roller. And also here the direction in which the load is applied shown. And for thrust bearing also the parts are given here, that's a shaft, washer, rolling element, cage and housing washer. So now we know what do mean by sliding contact bearing. It operates on a thin film of lubricant. It is used in continuous rotational applications, and examples of sliding contact bearings are plain bearings, journal bearing. So what do you mean by rolling contact bearing? It is used rolling elements or balls or rollers to reduce friction, higher efficiency than sliding bearing. And the examples of rolling contact bearings are ball bearings, roller bearings. So here the figure of sliding and rolling contact bearing. In sliding contact bearing, there are shaft, bush and lubricating oil, and the force applied on the bearing that is also shown in this figure. And the rolling contact bearing, there are shafts, rolling elements, also the force applied on which part it is shown in this figure. So what are the types of rolling bearing? That are ball bearing which have radial and axial loads, roller bearing which has heavier radial loads, thrust bearing which has axial loads, and tapered bearing which have also axial and radial loads. So what are the bearing materials? The common bearing materials are steel, bronze, ceramics, polymers, and the selection of bearing depends on load, speed and temperature. So what are the bearing selection criteria? So for bearing selection, we have to know the load type and the magnitude, speed of operations, environmental conditions and lubrication needs. So what are the function of lubrication in bearing? It reduces wear and overheating, and types of lubricant we can use that are grease, oil, solid lubricants. Now we'll discuss about the applications of the bearings. It is applied in automotive, aerospace, industrial machinery and electrical appliances. In automotive, we can apply it in wheel hubs engine. In aerospace, it is used in jet engines control system. In industrial machineries, it is used in conveyors, pumps and electrical appliances. It is used in fans, washing machines. So here the figure of bearing which is used in automotive. So in this figure you can see the automotive parts that have axial end, pinion shaft, transmission end and tapered roller bearing is used here. So bearing in aerospace, we can use bearing in aircraft engine, flight control system, landing gear and spacecraft propulsion. So here the bearing in industrial machinery, in pump we can use the bearing. So it is a figure of inside of pump where we can use the bearing. So the parts of these figures are timing gears, shaft shields, cooling jackets, asymmetric rotors and anti-friction and roller bearing. So electrical appliances also you can use bearing like fan. So what are the parts in the fan and the bearing? So in fan we can use impeller, rotor, magnet flux, motor stator, magnet, shaft, oil ring, washer and also the bearings. So in conclusion we can say bearing improve machinery efficiency and longevity. Proper selection and lubrication and maintenance are the key. Advancement of bearing technology continue to improve performance.